In every kitchen, there is a language that doesn't need words. It does not rise in volume, but in scent. It speaks through the slow bloom of cardamom in warm milk, the smoky sigh of cumin hitting hot ghee, the sharp, electric promise of freshly ground pepper that prickles the air before it ever touches your tongue. This is not just cooking. This is a conversation older than parchment, older than ink, older even than bread. A conversation between hands and heart, between memory and moment. A grandmother's closed fist sprinkling saffron into biryani is not just seasoning. It is a prayer. A street vendor tossing red chili over roasted corn at dusk is not just selling food. He is sending out an invitation to pause, taste, and remember summer. Today, I invite you to step into this world, not just to taste spices, but to listen to them. Because long before they flavored our food, they carried messages of love, of protection, of wealth, of warning. This is the silent language of spices.
Fragrance, the first messenger. Before cooking had recipes, before measurements and timers, before stainless steel and gas stoves, there was the nose. Our ancestors learned to cook not by reading instructions, but by following scent. A bitter smell warned of something harmful. A warm floral scent invited trust. A sharp, spicy perfume signaled excitement, a meal worth waiting for. In ancient India, a bride's first meal at her in-laws' home was never just food. It was a message. If the curry was laced with fenugreek seeds, it meant prosperity and fertility, a blessing for her new journey. In Egypt, cinnamon was burned not only to perfume the air, but to signal that an honored guest was on their way. The scent would travel down the street, a wordless herald. Even in ancient Rome, when banquets were political stages, bay leaves and thyme in the cooking pot told guests that the evening was meant for joy, not confrontation. Fragrance was the first language of the kitchen. It could reach beyond walls, carry over crowds, and speak before the cook ever appeared.
Spices as love letters. We think of love letters as written words, but in many cultures, romance was stirred in pots, baked in ovens, and ground in mortars. In the Mughal courts, lovers exchanged not poems, but spice blends. A tiny jar of saffron and rose water was an unspoken vow. I think of you with every breath. Saffron, golden like the setting sun, symbolized passion, wealth, and devotion. Rose water carried tenderness, a sweetness without overpowering force. In Morocco, a young woman in love might prepare ras el hanout, a spice mix that could contain over 20 ingredients. Cinnamon for warmth, ginger for desire, nutmeg for luck, coriander for friendship, and cumin for protection. She would hand it over in a sealed jar, as if to say, "In my kitchen, you will always find safety and abundance." Even in 18th century Europe, lovers would bake small pastries scented with vanilla and nutmeg to secretly communicate longing. Vanilla, then rare, was associated with intimacy. Nutmeg, believed to stir the heart, was worth its weight in silver. In these acts, spices became emotions you could taste. To eat them was to receive the message in full. Power and the politics of the plate. Spices also spoke in the language of status. In the Middle Ages, to serve food heavily spiced with black pepper was to shout, without speaking, "I am wealthy enough to waste what others covet."
Pepper was so precious, it was counted like currency, stored in locked chests, and even used to pay rent. During the 15th and 16th centuries, merchant ships heavy with cloves, nutmeg, and cinnamon were floating kingdoms. Wars were fought for these flavors. The Portuguese seized ports, the Dutch monopolized islands, and the English East India Company traded lives for the control of spice routes. Even in royal kitchens, the use of spices was deliberate. Too much nutmeg might suggest extravagance verging on foolishness. The absence of saffron in a feast could be read as a sign that a kingdom's wealth was declining. A ruler's table was never just a meal. It was a statement of power plated in gold and seasoned with the rarest dusts of the earth.
Spices as shields. Not all spice messages were sweet. Some were warnings. Some were shields, invisible guardians scattered into pots, rubbed into skin, or hung above doorways. In India, the crackle of mustard seeds in hot oil was believed to scare away the evil eye. This was not just superstition. The sound, sudden and sharp, acted like a small kitchen firework, an energetic break in the air. Mothers would add them to a newborn's porridge or to a family meal before an important day, believing the seeds created a protective boundary. In Southeast Asia, turmeric was far more than a kitchen staple. A paste made of turmeric and sandalwood was smeared on the doors of homes during certain festivals, creating a golden barrier that no negativity could cross. Its rich yellow hue, resembling sunlight, was thought to trap dark forces before they entered. In medieval Europe, garlic wore two hats, one culinary, one magical. Sailors chewed it before long voyages to ward off disease. Farmers tied braids of garlic over barn doors to keep their livestock safe. In some villages, cloves of garlic were hidden in pockets during full moons, a quiet armor against what they believed roamed in the night. The Middle East had its own spice guardians. Nigella seeds, known as kalonji in South Asia, were called the seed of blessing in Arabic traditions, believed to protect the body from almost any ailment. It was common to scatter a few on bread before baking, embedding protection into every bite. Even the act of burning spices carried its own shield. In Africa, frankincense and myrrh were lit not only for worship, but to cleanse the air before welcoming guests. The smoke curled through doorways, whispering, "This home is safe." To the modern ear, these might sound like folklore, but in truth, they were layered acts of care. Cooking with protective spices wasn't just about flavor. It was a way of looking after the people you loved without them even realizing it. Memory in a pinch. There is something the scientists agree on. Smell is the most direct path to memory. Our noses send signals straight to the brain's limbic system, the center of emotions and memory, skipping the filters that other senses go through, which is why one whiff of roasted cumin can transport you to a kitchen 20 years ago, why the sweet smokiness of clove can drop you into the middle of a winter festival from your childhood. Food memories aren't just about taste. They're about entire moments stitched together. Picture this. You're sitting on a low stool as a child. There's steam rising from a pot of dal. Your grandmother leans over it, adding a final tempering of ghee, cumin, and red chili. The sound is a sharp hiss. The smell blooms instantly, wrapping the whole room. Even decades later, that single scent can bring back not just her cooking, but her face, her voice, the warmth of her sari brushing against your arm. It's not only family we remember. Street food spices create their own time capsules. The tangy hit of chaat masala can recall bustling markets, the call of vendors, the sound of coins clinking in your hand. The faint bitterness of kasuri methi might bring back a small roadside dhaba where you once stopped for paratha on a long trip.
And these memories do more than comfort us. They root us. They remind us of who we are, where we've been, and the people who flavored our lives. Our personal histories live not only in photographs, but in the tiny glass jars on our spice racks. And sometimes, when life feels rushed or disconnected, all it takes is opening one of those jars, inhaling deeply, and being pulled back to a time when the world felt simple and whole.
Learning to hear. The language of spices is quiet, so quiet it can be drowned out by our modern rush. To hear it, we must slow down. When you cook, notice the sequence of spices. Which one do you add first? Why? If you're making tea, do you drop cardamom pods in early, letting them steep, or do you crush them at the end for a burst of aroma? That choice, small as it seems, reveals something about the way you like your comfort. Start treating your spice rack like a library of personal symbols. Cinnamon might mean holidays. Ginger could mean home remedies from my mother. Black pepper might stand for everyday courage. You can even hold a small ritual. Once a week, pick a spice you rarely use, open it, smell it slowly, and see what memory rises. You might discover your own history in those forgotten jars. Listening to spices also means noticing them in other people's cooking. When you visit someone's home, taste what they've prepared. What's the dominant note? A strong chili kick might mean they want to energize and awaken you. A mild, nutmeg-infused dessert might mean they want to calm you, to slow you down before you leave. And if you start paying attention, you'll realize you've been speaking this language all along. Every pinch, every stir, every blend is part of a conversation older than you, older than your parents, older than your culture itself. The next time you sit to eat, don't just think about flavor. Think about what the spices are saying. Because when you begin to hear them, you begin to understand that food is never just food. It is history, protection, memory, and love, all hidden in plain sight.
We may forget the exact way our ancestors measured salt. We may never grind spices on a stone slab the way they did, but the messages remain. Every time you smell ghee carrying mustard seeds into a soft crackle, you are hearing your grandmother's voice. Every time you crush cardamom pods, you are answering a love letter written centuries ago. Every time chili burns your lips, you are remembering the daring spirit of traders who crossed oceans for this fire. The language of spices needs no dictionary. It asks for only a nose, a tongue, and a heart willing to listen. So tonight, when you eat, close your eyes. Breathe in and let the spices speak.